Welcome into a special Monday episode of the FFPC Insider Access show right here on the Better Sports Network and the FFPC socials. My name is Eric Balkman. You know me from the FFPC, the Fantasy Football Players Championship at myffpc.com. You also know me from the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown and the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. At Eric Balkman on X is where to connect with me there. You can connect with this guy on the X at FF Stalder. Of course, at Roto Underworld, the guy who runs all the news updates that are coming through, Player Profiler, and so much more. He is Bradley Stalder, and he joins me on a Monday night in December, a cold Monday night in December here in Northeast Wisconsin. How is it on the left coast, Bradley?
Yeah, it's still cold here. Unfortunately, it's been warm at the end of last week, so the snowman that my children built in the front yard has melted away. We had just over the weekend, our HOA has like awards that they give out for like front lawn decorations, and we ended up winning this year because of the snowman and a 30-foot Santa inflatable that somehow is still standing right now. So I'm very proud of that. Unfortunately, not as much snow in the front yard here, Eric.
It happens, right? We're worried about, I shouldn't say we're worried about, but there's some people here in Northeast Wisconsin worried that we're not going to have a white Christmas because everything's been melting over the last couple of, I wouldn't say last couple of weeks, but about the last week and a half or so. But trust me, it got cold again outside today. So I don't think we're in any danger of that. So glad to have you aboard tonight. I want to remind everybody that if you are looking for some weekly stuff, FFPC Weekly Challenge is going to be live this coming Thursday for the Christmas Day games. No draft, no salary cap. Just pick 10 players, win up to $2,500, 10, 30, and 100 team contests. Only one player per NFL team. Register now at myffpc.com. That's myffpc.com. Don't forget about the world famous FFPC Playoff Challenge, which is also live at myffpc.com. Same stipulation on that. No convoluted rules. You're just picking picking 12 players. If you want to enter for $200, you can win up to $500,000. If you just want to enter in for $35, you're still eligible for a $100,000 grand prize. Only one player per NFL team. If you want Drake Maye, you can't have Stephon Diggs. If you want Matthew Stafford, you cannot have Puka Nacua. Register now, myffpc.com. Our producer, the man behind the glass pushing all the buttons tonight is one Sean Engel. Let's go around the NFL, Bradley, shall we? Brock Bowers gets 5 targets yesterday from Geno Smith, the return of Geno Smith. He catches 5 of them for 33 yards and a touchdown. They lose to the Texans, but they put up a good fight. There are certain people that are dragging Brock Bowers to the forefront of the championship round and the FFPC main event and the FFPC Big Gorilla. This is more of a, and Bradley, we'll get into this tonight, more of a wide scope. Not only next week in week 17, the final round or the final week of the championship sprint in the FFPC main event and the Big Gorilla, but next year as well, because we'll have best ball drafts starting up, in January. I know you guys at Player Profiler will do the same. Your thoughts on Brock Bowers? Now, it just seems like he just needs like a half step up at quarterback this year or in 2026 to become the alpha quarterback or alpha tight end that he was coming into this season. He's got to compete with Trey McBride, who also has quarterback questions. But I wonder if, knowing the way that Brock Bowers ended this season or seemingly is going to end this season, is actually going to make him the de facto buy as the number 1 tight end over Trey McBride, who seems to be firing on all cylinders with week 16, as the outlier. I wonder if Brock Bowers is actually the Sharky play as the number 1 tight end next year, even though McBride is going to have the stats over Bowers this year. How do you weigh in on this as we look forward to 2026?
Yeah, going into this 2025 season, I had Trey McBride over Brock Bowers by a little bit, and the argument was touchdown regression, right? There was a lot of expected touchdowns for McBride, and Bowers was the pendulum hadn't swung so negatively for him in 2024, but there's a lot of optimism for Bowers from this season, even though he missed some games with the injuries and Geno Smith has been inconsistent, throwing all these interceptions, drive-killing picks. He's number 2 among tight ends in target share on the season, number 2 among tight ends in air yard share, number 2 in first read targets. Like, he's putting up data, metrics that are indicative of elite status. So yes, you want to get your shares of Brock Bowers. And if there's any dip, like how there was a slight dip in Trey McBride this past year, want to buy slight dip on Brock Bowers, because the Raiders are probably not going to enter 2026 with Geno Smith as the starter. Kenny Pickett is clearly not an option. I know that some coaches like Aiden O'Connell, but he's already run his course. So there's going to be a fresh new face in Vegas, and with Brock Bowers there and Jacoby Myers shipped out, yeah, there is a pathway for Brock Bowers to break the tight end position in 2026.
Do you view that fresh face at quarterback in Las Vegas as a rookie quarterback, or do you view him as a veteran? Because the way that we draft Bowers in best ball, that call may affect the way we select him and how high or how low we draft him, Bradley, in 2026.
I think it comes down to who's the coach for the Raiders in 2026. Pete Carroll very much underperformed this year. And so you have a situation where maybe the Raiders look at their entire team and say, you know what, Pete, thanks for giving us a solid year. We want to move on. So if there's a new coach in play, yes, I think a rookie is most likely. But if Pete Carroll is there again, I don't think Pete Carroll wants to ride along with a rookie. He's going to want to target one of those veteran quarterbacks who's more proven than Geno Smith and that can sustain offense. You know, ultimately, you have Ashton Jeanty, who had a big game in week 16, and then Brock Bowers as well. That's who the offense is going to run through.
I think that the Bowers versus McBride discussion in especially FFPC tight end premium leagues in 2026 is going to be very compelling as we watch that begin here in the next couple of weeks with the FFPC, as we look at it after the NFL draft, as we look at it throughout the summer, and then of course at the end of summer at the live main events at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas. That is going to be very compelling as we see what unfolds there. Now, that is not the only, and at least in my opinion, Bradley, that's not the only compelling ADP conversation we're going to have in 2026. And quite frankly, we have to make a decision about this guy in week 17, in championship week of the FFPC main event and the FFPC Big Gorilla. Ashton Jeanty gets 24 carries this past week against the Houston Texans. Unbelievable defense, obviously. It has been all season long. He gets 24 carries. He turns that into 128 yards, and he gets into the end zone. Plus, he gets one catch, but he makes it a 60-yard touchdown catch on his only target. This is what we were looking for when we drafted Ashton Jeanty this year. This is the kind of player we thought we were going to get. Now, I don't want to penalize him too much, Jeanty, because I think a lot of what he underwent this year, and congratulations if you drug him into the championship round, championship week here coming up in week 17, where you can put him in your lineup as a RB2 or a flex. Bradley, the world of fantasy football is very open to Ashton Jeanty this coming year. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be closed-minded on this as well. I think not necessarily Jeanty is who I'm watching in the offseason. I'm watching what the Raiders do in free agency, as you mentioned, the head coach, and in the draft as far as offensive line goes, because I think a mediocre offensive line would have shot Ashton Jeanty into orbit where he would have been on a lot of teams that are competing for $1 million in the Big Gorilla and the FFPC main event this weekend. I have no quarrels. I don't believe Jeanty's a bust. The Raiders got to get better on the O-line. How do you see Jeanty not only in week 17, but next year as well?
Yeah, this is a player who the efficiency metrics just hadn't been there for, but the opportunity, oh man, I was worried actually, Balky, when you were like in free agency, they're going to sign an RB2. I was worried you were going to say that because.
Well, they still could. I mean, that's a possibility as well.
Because right now, Jeanty is number 2 in opportunity share among running backs. That's unheard of. It is 82% opportunity share. Holy buckets. Like, there's no one else really getting involved in this Vegas Raiders offense in the backfield. Raheem Mostert is an afterthought. Like, Sincere McCormick isn't even on the Vegas Raiders anymore. Like, that's how wild it is. Because remember, in 2024, Sincere McCormick was like flex worthy for the Raiders. Nevertheless, you have Jeanty here, who we've seen these explosive games. And that's what happens when you have a talented player on a bad team. You just don't know when he's going to explode. And so if there's any improvements at all in this offense, you're going to see some more consistency, because the opportunity share is going to, we think it's still going to be there, even if he falls to 67%. Like, that's still massive opportunity. So there's room for him to regress in terms of opportunity share and get a more consistent offense and still pay off like a round 2 ADP next year. Because maybe he goes round 3, but I think that there's going to be enough chatter for the former first, running back overall off the board into the 2025 draft that, I think that he's going to solidify as probably a back end second round pick.
I think that's very interesting because we could see that blow up in our faces like Steve Slayton did a few years ago, right? We could also see it pay off huge dividends like James Cook did this year, right? So there's a lot to unpack. Thank God this show is year round, so we'll be able to attack this conversation every single week here throughout drafting season and then into the 2026 season as well. I want to bring up, Tom Smith in the chat right now. Our good buddy, Tom Smith, plays in the KFFSC, the FFPC. Ashton Jeanty quietly has scored 9 touchdowns this year. And I'll be honest with you, Bradley, I did not know that. And when he said 9, I'm like, Jesus, that strikes me as a pretty high number, but I guess it's accurate. And I trust Tom on this. It's one of those things too, where you connect the dots, you can see the path for him. And maybe at this time next year, Bradley, we're talking about, God, if only would have taken Ashton Jeanty in the mid-first round, we would be paying off. And there's a pathway to seeing that in next year as well with Jeanty, and we'll see what they do at quarterback and head coach. There are moving parts there, but there is a pathway for Ashton Jeanty to be a potential league winner coming up in 2026. Okay. I have this, and as a Packers fan, I'm watching it very closely. As a guy who has advanced to the championship matchup in several of my private dynasty leagues with Lamar Jackson, I'm watching it even closer. He's day-to-day with a back injury, something that John Harbaugh called a serious contusion. Now, Bradley, I don't know. For me, I hear serious contusion, I just assume he's going to miss. But maybe not so much. The issue with him, too, he played Sunday night. He's got to get ready to go Saturday night in Green Bay this week. Your thoughts on the likelihood that Jackson is going to be available to players who are playing him in the championship round of the main event, the Big Gorilla in the FFPC, as well as even if he's available, is he a guy that you want to sit given his injury and given his performance over the course of the last month and a half, 2 months, Bradley?
Yeah, this is a player that I spoke with Wyatt Bertoloni on Man versus Machine last week and the week before. And we came to the conclusion that there's no way you play Lamar Jackson the rest of the season, even if he is healthy, even if he is good to go. You look dating back to week 11, 6.7 fantasy points, week 12, 7.2, week 13, 7.5. And then, yes, he leaves this game early in week 16, 4.7 fantasy points. He's just not rushing as much. He's definitely been battling injuries. And so you also don't have, I don't think that there's clarity and a good game plan for the coaches. So whether they are getting good practices in with Lamar and with the rest of the starters, I also don't have a lot of confidence in their game plan without Lamar there. You think about Derrick Henry just being pulled off the field inexplicably for a lot of the end of the game. It was just wild. So I'm not sure what Baltimore's like macrocosmic plan is, but microcosmically, like we're not starting Lamar because we don't have a lot of trust with what is happening overall in this offense, even without the injuries, which seem to just be piling up for Jackson.
Excuse me. You have we're gonna get to the DK Metcalf stuff in a little bit, guys. Trust me. Rubio says it just seems like Lamar gave up on this season a while ago. And normally I don't like to, and Bradley, I don't know how you feel about this, but when it comes to like reading the body language and the post-game quotes and even like midweek quotes from players, I don't like to put a whole lot of stock into that for how I treat my fantasy lineups. But I do say that there is a stronger than normal narrative that Lamar Jackson is already looking at 2026, given the fact that they are 2 games back of the Steelers in the AFC North, given the fact that this dude has not been healthy for the better part of 2 months, maybe even more, given the fact that their backs are against the wall, and even if they're able to squeeze out a Packers or a victory over the Packers at Lambeau Field Saturday night, if the Steelers win on Sunday, it's all over. So there is like, I do, and I'm glad that the Ravens, as a Lamar Jackson owner, I'm glad that the Ravens are playing Saturday night where all this stuff is not still known, like you want to play him. But I'm really regretting starting Lamar Jackson this week over Brock Purdy. I think that people who are still in the thick of it in week 17 are looking at it from the standpoint of like, yeah, I know how talented he is, but I also know the situation his team is in, and I also know the state that his injury is in right now. It's you know, if you have a guy like Purdy, I mean, all systems go for Purdy, stuff like that. But man, Lamar Jackson in week 17, dude, even knowing that he is playing for something here or should be playing for something, I have a lot of misgivings about that. And I think anybody who is playing for $1 million in the FFPC, they need, I don't want to say tread lightly, but they need to really analyze this situation, because I think it's more nuanced than we've had over the course of the season for Lamar Jackson so far.
Yeah, Lamar, it's going to be so hard to pick a player that you would not start over, in terms of him. So like, okay, baby bulky, we can play a little game like Lamar. Please. or Caleb Williams.
And I'm bringing this up right now because I want to know who they play in week 17 here. The Niners, right, for Caleb Williams? Am I right on that? Is that who it is in week 17?
Caleb Williams they at San Francisco.
At San Francisco. Oh boy.
Because give me Caleb Williams. That game could very much turn into a shootout.
Here's the thing with that, and the total is up on that. It's 50.5 right now. Geez, yeah, I think you're right. I think it's Caleb Williams. I think it's Caleb Williams over Lamar Jackson. Okay,
we'll go deeper. Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Right?
Aaron Rodgers is at Cleveland. Here's where I draw the line. Have you seen the total on that Brown Steelers game at all, Bradley?
What is it, like 37?
33. I mean, there is no points being scored in that game. At that point, I will throw caution to the wind.
Okay.
And say
all
Lamar
right.
Jackson on
I think we found our line of demarcation.
Right. So yes on Caleb Williams over Jackson. No on Rodgers. Although I will say, I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is just me. Does it seem like the Browns defense is not capital letters Browns defense the way it was the first couple months of the season? Or is that just me? I don't know.
It seems like the rushing has not been as strong. You have to wonder if the team is more focused on, like, over the last game, like trying to sack Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Like Myles Garrett getting him that record. You have to think that is the moral victory for the Cleveland Browns this year. Look, if I were Cleveland and I had nothing else to play for, and you've got the sack record possibility going into, like, the other part is, like, this is week 17. So just like all the other seasons, there's week 17. You get an extra week. You want to, like, legitimately set the record if you're Aaron Rodgers, if you're Myles Garrett and the Cleveland Browns. So yeah, I think that's their focus, less about stopping the run and more so trying to penetrate to stop the pass.
Okay. Let's I want to talk more about the Lamar Jackson here, but I think it's more important to get into this DK Metcalf stuff.
Sure.
All right. So Metcalf, we found out from several sources that he is being suspended for the remainder of the regular season for this altercation he had with a fan. I don't want to get into the ins and outs. God, I've read so much about this, Bradley, about the history with this guy. Some other people saying this guy has a mental illness. I'm talking about the fan, not DK Metcalf. There's a lot to get into with this. But right now, he is appealing his suspension for 2 games. I have Metcalf going in one league where it matters, right? The rest of the leagues, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm on to 2026. But the one league that I have him in, Bradley, I'm planning on him not being available this week. I can't imagine a 2-game suspension comes down on Monday afternoon here, and we still think that there's a possibility that he's going to be eligible for week 17. Maybe he's eligible for week 18, but 2 games coming down on Monday right after week 16, I am counting him out for week 17. Is that the way you're viewing this situation as well?
Yeah, DK Metcalf's definitely going to miss 1 game. I don't think that on an appeal they'll get rid of both games because it looks like he physically approached a fan, and based on the NFL statement that they came out with a couple hours ago, it was clear, like, they were using NFLPA and NFL players language. And when you use that type of lawyer language, when you're citing the handbook, you are really trying to make sure that you get whatever happens stick. And so definitely he's missing the Cleveland game. Now he's appealing. I'd give it a 50-50 shot for Baltimore. So not that it really matters much for most leagues for a week 18, but there are like 5 to 10% of leagues that you're in, managed leagues, that are in week 18. So I wouldn't plan for him in your championship week, though.
I think, and by the way, Tom Smith is chiming in right here. And Tom, I'm going to give you this right now. He wants to know the over-under in the Giants-Raiders game this week. And I'll tell you this right now. As I look at it, that is a 4:05 start. I didn't realize that. Significantly higher than that Browns-Steelers game. 41.5 for that game.
Still not great, Balky.
And it's not great. But you know what's interesting about that game? The loser of that game probably has the number 1 pick in the draft, right? And one of those teams needs a quarterback, and one of them doesn't. So at least I think one of them doesn't. So I would say in regards to New York and Las Vegas, there's probably going to be a command coming down from the front office, from Joe Schoen, however you pronounce it. Like, listen, I don't care if we win this game or lose this game or whatever. He'll say we want to lose this game, because the Raiders will really want to lose this game to have the inside track on Francisco Mendoza or whatever quarterback is going to be number 1 in the draft. This could be a race to the finish where both teams are trying to lose that game, which I know sounds bad on the surface, but I think it'd be very compelling to watch this unfold on Red Zone. People to consider: Wan'Dale Robinson, Tyrone Tracy, Brock Bowers, Ashton Jeanty. All 4 of those players may be neutered by their front offices in this game. So if you are starting any of them in a championship game, like I am, you have to be aware that there could be some malfeasance and skullduggery going on there where these guys get. I mean, I don't think I'm speaking on a turn here, Bradley. Can you see this happening as well?
I less likely. There's a lot of pride that teams take, even if it's facing off with a bad team, against a team that is, they know the stakes, but they also know that there's another week, in week 18. And so many of these players just want to win. Like they come to the team, they play in the NFL, and very rarely do you see a coach tell a guy to like, fall before the end zone or
Right.
anything like that. But that's more competitive because that secures the victory. So I don't think that there's going to be a malfeasance game plan. I'm not worried about that, Balky. Like you're starting these guys with the same level of confidence that you were starting with them 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago.
By and large, I think you're right. Okay. For the most part, I think you're right. But allow me to play devil's advocate here again. Tom Smith chiming in. Jackson Dart this past week, 33 passing yards. How does that happen? He was not asked to throw the ball until the second quarter of that game. Steve G chiming in too. Dart is already being restricted. I'm going to say this, and this is how I view it, and I could be wrong, and maybe I am wrong. You can't tell players to tank. Players that have contracts expiring at the end of the year, players entering into a contract year. You can't tell them to say, hey, we're trying to get a higher draft pick. Just give up. Don't go the extra mile. Don't give us 110%. Just give us 70 or 80%. That's not the way that NFL players' minds work. That's not the way that they play the game. That's not the way that they have been conditioned to play the game since they turned 9 or 10 years old or whatever. But what you can do is what the Giants did last week. Well, we're gonna implement a run-heavy game plan. We're going to implement a game plan that is going to shorten the game, give us an opportunity to win it at the end. And that's how they'll defend it at the end of the game. I am with you for the most part on I'm not going to radically change my lineup decisions for the Giants and Raiders this week, right? Based on what could be the battle for the number one pick. However, in JJ Zacharyson talks about this all the time, the range of outcomes, right? There is a range of outcomes that include the Giants and the Raiders, both of them, one of them putting up nothing and not helping you at all for fantasy. So I do think when you submit your lineups, and like I said, Bradley, I think I'm with you on the most part in submitting my lineups this week. I do have to have in the back of my head or maybe in the front of my head that this could blow up in my face. Maybe not a high possibility, but still a possibility. Okay.
Yeah, I looked at the Giants, like how many points they given up.
Yeah.
16 against Minnesota, fewest points allowed on the season. And they tied for the most sacks on the season. They had a ton of 7 tackles for loss. Like their defense was playing very well. So I can't really blame them for trying to lean into this when they only lost by 3 points.
Right.
The game plan didn't result in a win, but it kept them very close. And they knew they couldn't get into a shootout with Minnesota, given that you have Aaron Jones, you have TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson. So, I think that the game plan there was to, well, if we can slow the game down, we can allow fewer points and maybe we'll get lucky. And they did get a defensive touchdown. So we'll see how they play it out, but I think it's a lower percentage. I'm not as worried about a tank. I do think that there's going to be game specific plans that the Giants will have for Vegas and then Dallas in week 18.
So I have to ask you this too. Do you believe that there are mandates coming down from the front office when it comes down to restricting yardage, restricting points, or anything like that? Do you view that is a thing, or does that not happen in the NFL? As far as your best guess is, I know you're not connected to you're not at the behest of any NFL front office, but Bradley, in your experience, does that happen at all?
I think that it happens you have to think about like the Tua situation, or you think about the Kyler situation. These players are superior talents to the quarterbacks that are currently on the roster. Even if you think that they've been playing very poorly, they are just more talented overall. And maybe they're not getting the scheme. Maybe it doesn't make financial sense. Whatever the case may be, Balky, that the the decisions to sit these quarterbacks, I think that's as far as the front office goes in terms of outwardly doing that. And I don't think that there would be any paper trail, because they could get in trouble, real trouble with the league in terms of competitive balance. So I doubt it, Balky, but you can think of a couple examples like Tua and Kyler where they're clearly, or like a couple years ago, you had Russ Wilson, or the Daniel Jones situation. They're benching these players from a financial perspective, and clearly they want to move on from them. So it's more player focused for the franchise than I would say from well, we want to win or lose or secure a particular draft position.
I want to talk about the Sunday night game last night. And for anybody who went to bed early, you missed the Drake Maye comeback last night, and he was very, very good. 31 of 44 throwing the ball, 380 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, as the Patriots defeated Baltimore 28-24. He also had 10 carries, believe it or not, for 25 yards. Now, he did lose the football twice. One fumble was recovered by Baltimore. And I do have to say, the fact that this dude had his team down by 11 in the fourth quarter to Baltimore, he leads the charge to spur the comeback. They end up closing the deal, and New England wins the game. We had MVP chants from the Patriots fans in attendance in that game last night. It was the first time that Drake Maye had more than 300 passing yards this year. New England will be in the playoffs. We know that after they win this game. I will say that 37-yard touchdown to Kyle Williams late was pretty impressive. And now they get the Jets in week 17. So many things I could ask you here, Bradley. I'm going to ask you this. Maye looks awesome. I wouldn't say league winner, but he looks awesome this year. Number one, what did we miss on with Drake Maye in letting him as far as fall as far as we did in high stakes drafts this year? And then number two, as far as quarterbacks go, as of right now, December 22nd, 2025, as far as quarterbacks go in 2026 drafts, how many quarterbacks would you take over Drake Maye? For me, it's kind of a short list. I've been very impressed with what I've seen from this guy so far this season.
Yeah, Drake Maye, to answer your first question, why did we let him fall so far? It has to be the supporting cast. Like, Hunter Henry has always been a solid tight end. Stephon Diggs was coming off of an ACL injury, and that's why it was major discount season for the Patriots to get a player like Diggs. Kyle Williams really hadn't hit. He had went 2 for 46 in the touchdown on 3 targets. Matt Collins played pretty well. Kayshon Boutte has had good games here and there, downfield presence. But the reason why, I think, was because, and this is my logic, the supporting cast. We weren't sure whether Diggs, Williams, Hollins, Henry would all be enough to even be elevated. If Maye was able to take the next step, would they be elevated enough? And Diggs is clearly doing very well, top 24 wide receiver on the season. And you have Drake Maye, who is getting a lot of rushing. I think the other component for Maye, and now there's absolute confidence in Mike Vrabel, that Vrabel had in his time in Tennessee, worked with Marcus Mariota, but we didn't see Mariota become this big time fantasy producer. We knew he was a little mobile, but outside of that, you had just AJ Brown, who Mariota was throwing to in Tennessee, believe it or not. Yeah. So, there were concerns that, well, the Patriots would just run the snot out of the ball with Stevenson and TreVeyon Henderson. So maybe Maye would get nuked, and 44 pass attempts for Drake Maye in week 16. That's real nice. And you look even back, Maye had 46 pass attempts in week 1. He was consistently getting like between 31 and 35 pass attempts. So there have only been a couple games where he's been, less than 25. So I would say the volume is there. Probably top 5. I think an easy top 5 quarterback for next season. Right. If Lamar's healthy, I think he's there in that conversation. You have a couple other running quarterbacks. Josh Allen, when he's healthy, is always there as well.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts. Something's up with Jalen Hurts, though. You know, the vibes are not great in Philly.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Philly does move off of AJ Brown in 2026. You know, he's a post-Apex alpha with a history of knee issues and caused some drama over the season. And if they lose, they don't win the Super Bowl again, I could see them moving off of him. And who are they going to replace AJ Brown with?
Well, that's the crazy thing. And you could make the case that they could replace him in the aggregate, right? Because think about what they have in Philly. They have Saquon Barkley.
Sure.
Dallas Goedert, maybe can churn out another year, maybe 2 years with him. I don't know. Devonta Smith, I've heard people telling me that he is a sleeper number one wide receiver. And so even if you can't replace Brown, you get another, number two type of wide receiver there. With as run heavy as that team wants to be, I think they can get away with not having Brown on that team, still keeping Jalen Hurts relevant and replenishing the offensive talent that you lose with Brown via the draft or via free agency, depending upon how you have this going. I think that's fascinating to look at. Now, if I look back at the FFPC main event drafts this past year, we had Lamar Jackson going 1, Josh Allen 2, Jaden Daniels 3, Jalen Hurts 4, Joe Burrow 5, Patrick Mahomes 6, Bo Nix was 7. I'm going to stop there and I'll break this down here. So obviously Jackson's end to this season is going to hurt him a little bit. Sure. Jaden Daniels' end to this season probably going to hurt him a little bit, fairly or unfairly. That's what we're looking at here. Joe Burrow, the fact that he's coming back, that'll be more fresh in our minds, so that'll help move him up. And obviously, playing in a division that is going to be won by a 9-8 team probably this year, something like that. Right. Gives Burrow and people believing in Burrow some hope that Burrow is just going to go ham and crush next year. So I think there's that. You have Patrick Mahomes, who is coming off of a torn ACL. We don't know when he'll play. I think, and Bradley, you can feel free to disagree with me on this, but I think that the torn ACL thing for a player like Mahomes, who actually did run quite a bit this year, maybe the most he's ever had in his whole career, I think that's a little overrated because I think he can come back and not be 100% capital letter Patrick Mahomes, right? And still be really, really good for fantasy teams this year. He was crushing it for our fantasy teams the majority of the season. So the ACL, as of right now, and we'll see how he's already had surgery on it. We'll see how the offseason develops. But as of right now, I think I'm more bullish than the rest of the crowd, the high-stakes players on this than Mahomes. We talked about Knicks, and then you have Mayfield, Prescott, and so on and so forth. But Drake Maye was drafted as quarterback 11 this past year. And I think you're right. I think that he is going to threaten that quarterback 5 level. In fact, if you wanted to take him, I think you can make an argument, and this might be me being too hot takey. I think you can make an argument for him going as the quarterback 2 next year over players like Jackson, Daniels, Hurts, even Burrow, Mahomes for sure, Knicks, Mayfield, Prescott. Yes, I think that especially the way that things seem to be building to a crescendo in New England this year, if you wanted to take him as a second quarterback off the board, I really can't formulate a good argument to say, hey, you're wrong in doing that.
Yeah, there is a pathway for Drake Maye to not only keep where he's at right now, but ascend. Like, he's going to be in that tier. And we also don't know what the offseason is going to look like for New England. Over the last couple of years, they have been trying, the Patriots have been trying so desperately to get another alpha wide receiver. And maybe they're happy with Stephon Diggs, but Diggs is on the wrong side of 30. And we know
he's been inconsistent this year too, Bradley.
Right. So they may look at adding another wide receiver who, like, they tried to get T. Higgins. They tried to get Brandon Ayuk. You know, Ayuk may become available this offseason. That's a possibility. But yeah, I think Drake Maye enters that tier, that top tier conversation with Josh Allen and the rest of them in terms of fantasy output, even without the addition of a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to touch on your Patrick Mahomes point as well. Like, where is Mahomes going to go? And like, how is it going to affect his rushing? So one of the players that most recently, like quarterback wise, toward their ACL was Joe Burrow back in 2020, right? His rookie year, he played 10 games, 142 rushing yards in those 10 games. So 14 yards per game. Mahomes was averaging something like 30 yards.
Yeah.
To do the next season after Burrow returns, he played all 16 games in 2021. Only 118 rushing yards the entire season. He was averaging something like 7 yards per game. So a significant shift, a half, cut it in half, the amount of rushing. So if we cut Mahomes rushing in half down to 15, like that puts him as most pocket quarterbacks. So I do think you have to take into account a significant dip for Mahomes compared to where he was performing this year. He's going to be stuck in the pocket. He's not going to be able to get all the he's setting a career high in rushing touchdowns this year. So you have a recovery, even aggressively, he's going to push it up toward week 1. And you know the type of player Mahomes is. At the same time, we have concerns about what this Kansas City Chiefs offense even looks like, because outside of Mahomes, who was producing? Rashee Rice was fine, but you don't have a running back. Kelsey's probably going to retire. Xavier Worthy busted this year. And so you have like, what's the answer here, Balky? I don't see a pathway for Mahomes to repeat like a top 5 fantasy points per game performance in 2026.
I think that you're bringing up some good points here that I didn't consider, and which is why I have smart people like you on this show. The other thing too, no Travis Kelce. What is that going to look like? You know, with Rashee Rice and who's probably going to be suspended at least a portion of the season. The good part is his suspension will probably coincide with Mahomes' rehabilitation potentially. Maybe Mahomes is ready for week 1. I don't know, but you have Worthy. I don't know about Marquise Brown if he's back next year. I don't even know if he's under contract there. They still don't have a really good solution at running back there as well. So there are some things working against Mahomes in addition to the injury next year. And quite frankly, Bradley, you might have pulled me back. I've been watching a lot of Stranger Things. You're pulling me back from the upside down, back into reality right now. And maybe I won't be bullish on Patrick Mahomes next year. Now, a quarterback that we didn't talk about that I think is going to be ascending quite a bit in drafts next year. And quite frankly, somebody that you need to keep in mind in championship round week 17 next year is Trevor Lawrence. He goes against Denver yesterday. And I'll say this too, mea culpa on this. I was telling people to bench Trevor Lawrence everywhere because what he did over the last 4 weeks was against these average to mostly below average defenses. Now he gets Denver in week 16. Well, what did he do? 23 of 36, 279 yards, not 1, not 2, but 3 passing touchdowns. He also ran in a touchdown, had 20 yards on the ground as well. He did it against Denver, which to me is a significant thing. 10 total touchdowns over his last 2 games. And Jacksonville, Liam Cohen, they are running hot in the NFL right now. He made everything, all the things he was supposed to do, Bradley, he did. The tough throws, he was also able to execute, and his receivers came down with it. We'll get into Parker Washington a little bit, but Brenton Strange, Brian Thomas, all these guys that were out there, Jacoby Myers, for God's sake. And I definitely want to ask you about the wide receiver situation as it pertains to 2026 as well. But this is a guy that is as hot as any quarterback in the NFL right now. And what I think is so compelling about this is we have gone back and forth. And is Lawrence the guy? Is he not the guy? Oh, I think he's the guy. No, he can't be the guy. No, he looks like the guy again. Nah, he's not there. They need somebody else. And now he looks like the guy again. We'll talk about Bryce Young coming up later in the show, which I think is a similar question we're asking ourselves. But Trevor Lawrence, dude, how do you fall in on him, not only for the remainder of this season, but drafts next year as well? Because he's giving us a lot of reasons to draft him potentially as high as the top 5 quarterbacks in next season's drafts.
Ain't no way I'm drafting Trevor Lawrence top 5, but you have to have a lot of confidence in what Liam Cohen's done for Jacksonville and for Trevor Lawrence, because it doesn't matter who the wide receiver is in Jacksonville. Someone is going to step up based on the game plan. And that's what we saw in week 16. Brian Thomas was being shadowed by Patrick Surtain. So only 2 receptions, 18 yards, 3 targets. But that's why Parker Washington exploded, 6 for 145, had the touchdown. Brenton Strange, had the touchdown, was very involved in the passing game as well. And you think, but right before Travis Hunter's injury, Hunter got double-digit targets in this offense. Jacoby Myers has been a consistent top 24 wide receiver since moving to Jacksonville. Like, it's clearly the system is working for Trevor Lawrence. So as long as Liam Cohen is there, you should be confidently throwing Trevor Lawrence into interesting stacks. I won't be drafting Trevor Lawrence as a top 5 quarterback, but I see his trajectory similar to that of what Baker Mayfield was in entering 2025, where you have Baker and you have a lot of other of these options at wide receiver that are going to go around the same spot where Trevor Lawrence is probably going to go off the board. Brian Thomas is going to take a tumble. Travis Hunter hopefully is going to be back, and Jacoby Myers is going to be there. So I think you've got 3 wide receivers in about the same, I don't know, they'll probably each be within a round of each other, maybe 2 rounds of each other, and then you'll draft Trevor Lawrence. So I think it's going to be difficult to get like a quad stack for Trevor Lawrence if you're trying to go with a Jacksonville stack for next year. So that's how I'm approaching. I'm not getting carried away with Lawrence. This is an exciting year. He's clearly working with the system, and but you just don't know who the guy is going to be. Is it going to be Parker Washington? Is it going to be Travis Hunter? Is it going to be Brian Thomas? We don't know whose game it's going to be. That's why I think for Jacksonville, if you're targeting those players, it's going to be in a best ball league, not in a managed league.
So that leads me into my next question, because just to gum up the works here, Bradley, Parker Washington, 10 targets. He catches 6 of them for 145 yards and a touchdown. You alluded to this. They have him. They have Strange. They have Hunter. They have Myers. They have Brian Thomas. There are so many guys there. You mentioned best ball, which I totally get. You're the best ball expert. Like, I think that I would agree with you that these guys are more best ball players than redraft and managed team players, right? But when it comes down to it, can you comfortably say, hey, in managed leagues, I'm just going to roll with who's ever drafted last, right? Whether that's Thomas, whether that's Myers, whether that's Strange or anybody, especially in tight end premium leagues. Can we apply that logic to drafting Jacksonville players next year, or is that too presumptuous as far as attacking these pass catchers in North Florida or Central Florida, wherever Jacksonville is, to attacking these pass catchers the correct way?
Yeah, I think when you come to the redraft leagues, you and they're all in similar tiers. Like I talked about how Myers, Hunter, and Thomas are probably going to be similar, given their production this year and what we've seen in this offense. Taking the cheapest option of those 3 is probably going to work out most of the time. You still want exposure to others. I want pretty even exposures in best ball, but I really do want to be targeting Trevor Lawrence in a redraft league, in a managed league, because whoever's going to go off, you don't need to play that roulette game. Lawrence is going to be the one passing them the ball. Mm-hmm. We also don't know who the running back is going to be in 2026. Maybe it's still Travis Etienne. He's played pretty well. Maybe it's Bashal Tutin will take the next step. There's so many options here that I think the answer in a redraft league is just you can draft Trevor Lawrence more comfortably than in a best ball league.
I have to ask you here as we get into the Denver situation, also in that Jaguars game. RJ Harvey, 7 carries, 50 yards. He gets in a touchdown. He also catches 4 passes for 71 yards as well. And Denver obviously was in, kind of catch-up mode for most of this game. 12 rushing attempts all game for Denver. He gets 7 of them. He was tied for 3rd on the team with 5 targets as well. 51 dropbacks for Bo Nix, and RJ Harvey ran a pass route on 26 of them. This is very interesting given that, and I know Dobbins was hurt for this game, and we don't know if he's coming back this year. And quite frankly, we don't know what's coming up in 2026.
Right.
Fortune favors the bold. Do we end up drafting a guy like RJ Harvey, a half round, maybe a full round ahead of everybody else next year, betting that whoever Denver adds to this backfield, whether it's Dobbins for another year or whether it's somebody else, that RJ Harvey actually takes a step forward as being, quote unquote, the guy in that Denver backfield next year? How do you see this situation? Is he ready to make that leap, or do you think Sean Payton is just conditionally registered into not letting anybody be the guy in his offense? And regardless of what happens with Dobbins, Harvey is going to be competing with a 1A or a 1B next year.
Yeah, Harvey is the type of player that I want to put chips in on. His player profiler best comparable player is Chase Brown. And we saw in rookie year, Chase Brown, him not do very much. And then year 2, boom, explosion. Year 3, boom, explosion. Harvey has 2nd round draft capital to him. We know this. And we also are uncertain about whether Dobbins is returning given the foot injury. He signed a 1-year deal. It was very late in the offseason as well. It wasn't like, oh, immediately after the draft, they're going to be drafting a J.K. Dobbins or signing J.K. Dobbins. So RJ Harvey, the pathway for him to hit majorly is clear. Like, he very well could be the guy. And when we look at the game log, we see just a massive, massive uptick. Week 11 and beyond, 8 fantasy points, 21 fantasy points, 22 fantasy points, 10.5, 22.1. Even before that, week 8 and 9, 24 and 16 fantasy points for RJ Harvey. Yeah, we want to be chips in on RJ Harvey. So, yeah, I want my shots. I want to take my shots. And we'll see if he gets more move in year 2 in this offense.
RJ Harvey went off as running back 20 in the mid-5th round last year. And while I do think that was high, I think he could go higher in drafts next year. At the FFPC, KFFSC, I always bring up as well. Those drafts are going to be starting here in the next couple of weeks. Be paying attention to see where Harvey goes. He is one of the many people we're keeping tabs on for 2026 drafts as well. The expert on 2026 best ball drafts and in any year best ball drafts is Bradley Stalder, who you can connect with on the X right now, ladies and gentlemen, at FF Stalder. And of course, check out all his work at Playerprofiler, Roto Underworld. I want to take a quick break. When we come back, we have to get into this Monday night game. And I know lineup decisions have been made, but Bradley, people playing DFS or what have you still have the opportunity to make changes here. I want to get your thoughts on the Niners and Colts tonight with Phillip blanking Rivers at quarterback. Still can't get over that. It's been crazy. We'll get into Juwan Jennings. I definitely want to ask you about that. Tyler Warren, I think, is an important person to be considering in the FFPC here as well. We'll step out. We'll catch our breath when we come back. Our Monday Night Football preview with Player Profiler's own Bradley Stalder. I'm Eric Balkman. Don't go anywhere. The FFPC Insider Access Show rolls on Fantasy Football Night in America right here on the Better Sports Network.
Folks, let me talk to you about my favorite weekly platform to play on. We all play Dynasty and we all play Redraft, but we got to find some place to play weekly. And the FFPC Weekly Challenge is my favorite. If you're like me and you're tired of the constraints of salary caps or having to do a draft to make a team, or even having to play against these people that are stacking up the same team, stacking up certain games, and you feel like you have to put in 1 million entries or have to have those certain stacks to win, then come play over at FFPC. Really, the only main rule that you have to deal with is that you cannot select multiple players from the same team. I'm going out and I'm trying to find the best of the best of the best players and put them into a lineup. And that's what you can do over at my FFPC. You can go out and you can take the number 1 running back in Bijan Robinson, and you can also have Saquon Barkley. As long as they're not in the same team, you can put them all into a lineup, right? And there's 4 flexes for this, so there's a lot of flexibility. There's 2 different contests, one that has kickers and defenses, one that's just position players. Then you also have a bunch of different price points you can play at: $35, $100, or $200 buy-in. And you're going out and you're just picking the absolute chalk plays, maybe sneaking in a little bit of a sleeper there, somebody that you think can really blow up that week. And that's how it works. It's one of the best contests out there for the sharpest gamers. And when you win on the FFPC, people take notice. That is where the best high stakes games are. That's where the best experts play. And that's where I play, because I want to be an FFPC champion and put that title on me, put the money in my pocket, and put that in my bio. FFPC champion. And the FFPC weekly contest is the best place to play during the season.
FFPC Weekly Challenge will go off again for Week 16 coming up. But if you are looking for some postseason action, check out myffpc.com. The world-famous FFPC Playoff Challenge is live right now. There's no draft. There's no salary cap. No convoluted rules. Just pick 12 players. So you're going to have multiple flexes, 4 flexes in this contest, in fact, and you just watch them ride through the entire postseason. The lineups will lock at kickoff of the first wild card game of the first week of the postseason for the NFL. If you enter at a $200 price, you will be eligible for a $500,000 grand prize. $35 will still get you eligible for a $100,000 grand prize as well. Only 1 player per NFL team. So if you want to have James Cook, you cannot have Dalton Kincaid. If you want to have Jalen Hurts, you can't have Saquon Barkley. myffpc.com, myffpc.com is where to register for that. Being joined by Bradley Stalder at FF Stalder on X tonight. He is with Roto Underworld, Player Profiler, obviously. Stack Hunters is a show that you do with another friend of the show, Dan Williamson. Is that more of like a early season podcast, or what's your schedule like for that, Bradley?
Yeah, it's mostly an off-season podcast. So Dan and I have done 2 during the course of the season, but it's mostly an off-season reaction to doing live drafts, rankings, those types of things. Lots of speculation, less start sit, because Dan does a lot of great work in the high stakes streets with Fantasy Empire podcast. That's his in-season pod, which is awesome. Some of the best high stake players in the world, are his co-hosts for that show. So shout out to Dan. We love Dan Williamson. He's Dan the man. And looking forward to getting Stack Hunters back up here probably at the end of January, maybe first week of February. We'll see when the contests are announced, because a lot of these way too early contests drop in February, and the degenerates like Dan and myself are already in the streets drafting and making rankings, and then debating and waiting another 9 months, 7 months until all of this comes to fruition, and we get things right, we get things wrong. But that's the part of the analysis that that's why I like doing co-hosted podcast, Balky, because iron sharpens iron in this industry.
Yes.
Like people, we make each other better. We have a lot of fun playing this game, and just listening to other perspectives. I'm always nugget hunting when I'm either co-hosting or a guest on a pod. So I'm listening very carefully to what someone else is saying, so that, is there something that I take away with? Maybe I disagree with it, but it's a new lens that maybe I'll consider for the future too.
I think that's, and I've said this on the show before, that was one of my biggest hurdles to get over playing fantasy football, is living in my own echo chamber, right? Like I automatically tune out people that, or for years, I automatically tuned out people that didn't share the same viewpoint as me. And I'm like, well, why am I listening and watching to all these podcasts if I just am tuning out people with opposing viewpoints? And I think what's so great, not only about your show, because I think you attack things from a high stakes level in the early part of best ball season, but you mentioned the Fantasy Empire podcast, Dan Williamson, former FFPC main event co-champion Nelson Sousa, Matt Modica, who I've had on my podcast before, and of course Chris Vaccaro, one of the most accomplished high stakes players out there. You have all 4 of those guys in the Fantasy Empire, which is great, and they do that show every week in season. But as far as building up your rosters for best ball, Stack Hunters with you and Dan, I think is just that is chef's kiss good. So I encourage everybody to be listening to that. once you guys get going for 2026, which won't be far away, quite frankly.
It's sneaking up on us, Eric. It's sneaking up on us.
You know it. Absolutely. 100%. Let's get into tonight's game. It is the Niners and Colts. This is a game that I don't know, man. Like I didn't necessarily have that circled on my calendar when it comes to week 16, but I also didn't think that both these teams would be in the situations that they're in, with the Niners being so battered on defense. The Colts starting Phillip blanking Rivers at quarterback. We'll get into that. Speaking of his counterpart tonight, Brock Purdy. I'm already lamenting that I benched Purdy for Lamar Jackson in a couple of my leagues yesterday. How elite do you think Purdy is against this Colts defense tonight, Bradley?
You know, the expert consensus ranking has Brock Purdy as quarterback 5 on the week. So, I mean, all of the experts have him at 5. I know he has all his weapons. I get it. There's a lot of excitement. You got Christian McCaffrey, you have George Kittle, you have all these pieces that are present. When look at what Brock Purdy has done. I mean, he was quarterback 4 against Tennessee last week, though. Yeah, against Cleveland, which is always tough against Purdy.
Yeah.
Francisco. They always tend to play San Francisco very tough. He was quarterback 16. Against Carolina, he was quarterback 20. Week 11, he was quarterback 6 against Arizona. You know, I think Brock Purdy will give us a solid performance. It's still top 10. I think, you know, that's where I'm looking at for him, but I'm not going as berserk as the rest of the fantasy community over Brock Purdy. I think that this will be a game that is slowed down. Indianapolis clearly wants to control the ball. We'll get into Phillip Rivers in a second, but I don't think the game plan for Indy is to get into a shootout with San Francisco. They want to control the ball. They have Jonathan Taylor, who is one of the best running backs in the NFL, and you have 44-year-old Phillip Rivers throwing the ball, and he can't throw it more than 20 yards down the field. So if I'm Indy, that's my game plan. And I don't think it'll be necessarily Jackson Dart level of like hamstringing of Phillip Rivers against San Francisco. But we could look at a situation where both teams score 21 or fewer points.
Yeah.
What's the over-under for this game?
That's a great question, Bradley. I don't want to bring that up right now. If we look at the total for tonight's game in Indianapolis between the Indianapolis Colts and the San Francisco 49ers, I can tell you that the total is sitting at 46.5.
See, I would take the under on that. I don't think it's going to get to that type of shootout.
I think you're right. And it doesn't really have to develop into a shootout for it to,
it could be 24-21.
And you win. And you win on the under. Absolutely. Let me ask you something about the championship sprint in the FFPC main event, the FFPC Big Gorilla. I think, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I have heard that there are 3 schools of thought on this. The most dangerous running back in the sprint is fill in the blank. Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, or somebody else, Bradley.
You know, McCaffrey. I think McCaffrey is the most dangerous. He's still his opportunity. We talked about opportunity share for Ashton Jeanty, right? And Jeanty was at like 80 something percent, 82%. I'm pulling up McCaffrey's right now. His is at 80.1, but his weighted opportunities is number 1 among all running backs. He is just getting involved. 108 targets entering week 16.
Jesus. God.
Right. That's what I mean. And so in full PPR leagues, like this is an absolute cheat code. Christian McCaffrey has finished outside the top 14 of running back on a week once this season. Once.
It's mind-boggling. And considering, how we were handling McCaffrey in drafts this past year, where a lot of people just assumed, well, he's going to get hurt. He's not going to stay healthy all season. I have to ask you, as we move forward to 2026, and this is something I've wrestled with, there's no real reason as far as performance goes in 2025 to downgrade McCaffrey in drafts next year. Now, you want to downgrade him because of the team he's on. You want to downgrade him because of his age. You want to downgrade him because of his injury history. Okay. But these are all kind of things floating out in space. They're not real until they become real in the 2026 season. I saw McCaffrey drafted a lot at the back end of the first and in the second round. Bradley, what are we supposed to do with McCaffrey, assuming he makes it through this season unscathed and he's entering the 2026 offseason healthy? He is going to be a fascinating player to watch, my friend.
My concerns with McCaffrey are the concerns that I had for Saquon Barkley entering 2025. And that was just the massive, massive volume. We saw Barkley just crater in terms of efficiency, even when Philly has been playing pretty well on offense. Yes, you've had your bumps, your ups and downs, but McCaffrey has already shown signs of this efficiency decline, significant efficiency decline. This is okay for like 2027. I could see McCaffrey turn into 2025 Alvin Kamara.
Oh, wow.
So you have probably one more year of good McCaffrey in 2026. You may see some fall off a little bit here and there. Maybe there's a small injury here, but 2027, like if I'm on a dynasty league and I've got Christian McCaffrey and I'm competing, yeah, I want to keep him on for one more year. I think that there is still one more good season in the tank. At the same time, you're going to see an efficiency drop. So Barkley is disappointing this year, but he's not like a zero.
No.
Right. So, and you're putting in Barkley every week, regardless. And I think that's what you're going to see in 2026 with McCaffrey. You're going to be putting him in your lineup. He's going to do pretty well from time to time. The offense may look a little bit differently because, as we all know, San Francisco went through all these different injuries, whether it was, Kittle getting hurt, Ayuk has been out the whole season. You have Juwan Jennings dealing with injuries. Kendrick Bourne was a thing for San Francisco. That's how desperate San Francisco was for a while.
That seems like last year, by the way, at this point, which is crazy.
So that's my take on Christian McCaffrey. Ultimately, I think that drafters are going to draft him very high. I don't want zero McCaffrey, but I want to be underweight on McCaffrey.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. Bill Hollywood chiming in, who's having a fantastic season in the FFPC, thinking that McCaffrey is going to go top 6 next year. And I don't fault him. I think that's accurate. It only takes one team, right, to draft McCaffrey, and I think that's where it's going to come. Getting back to this year, Juwan Jennings, we have no Ricky Pearsall tonight. We know he's out. We know Juwan Jennings has been putting up pretty solid numbers in Pearsall's stead when he's missed time this season. What do you think Juwan Jennings does tonight, Bradley, against the Colts?
Yeah, my projection for Jennings is 5 catches on 7 targets, and you get 60 yards. So are you happy with 13 fantasy points and the chance for a touchdown? Because Juwan Jennings has 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games.
And I'm sorry for interrupting. 13 for some people watching this, 13 might be fine. They might be good with that. But if you are looking at moving up the main event leaderboard or the Big Gorilla leaderboard, you want to go for upside. How much upside is there tonight? And these people have probably already made their decisions, which is fine. But Bradley, how much upside is there for Jennings? Yes, he could put up 13, and I think you're right. I think he puts up at least 13. But does he have a spike week in him against Indy tonight?
Yeah, again, I'm taking the under on the game total of 46.5. We talked about the game script. We talked about the other factors at play here. The Colts do not want to get into a shootout. They want to control the ball. And so, yeah, you're going to see Juwan Jennings. I'm not sure if he gets the touchdown, but he's had 5 of his last 6 games. He scored a touchdown. Mm-hmm. So, the argument is, well, he's on a streak, or he's due to not score a touchdown, right? Those are the 2 lines of thought that you have to entertain as you're going through. And so, like, the floor is 13. The ceiling is 20. The ceiling's 20 fantasy points. So are we happy with 20 fantasy points from Juwan Jennings? I think so.
I do want to touch on the Phillip Rivers aspect of this tonight, because there's a couple of schools of thought on this, Bradley. Number one, I don't know. I have literally no idea what you thought Rivers was going to do last week in his debut after, essentially 5 years of not being in the league at 44 years old and a grandfather. Is he going to surprise us 2 weeks in a row? Because he definitely surprised me last week. John Daigle from Established Around was on this show a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned death as a possibility for Phillip Rivers on the field, which blew me away. I didn't want to think about that, but Rivers tonight against the Niners defense, your thoughts on his output and how good of a start is the Niners defense tonight against the 44-year-old grandpa?
I mean, you gotta play the 49ers defense. The counter argument to the game script that I mentioned earlier is that San Francisco just gets out ahead by, let's say they're up 24-10. What is Rivers going to have to do? He's going to have to throw. He's going to have to throw down the field. So that requires offensive line to hold up for a long time, for the play to develop. It also requires him to throw the ball down the field, where we are not comfortable with his average depth of target, right? His noodle arm strength did not improve in 4 years. So look, I am rooting heavily from the personal side for Phillip Rivers. I think this is a great story. Right. I love Phillip Rivers. I love his family. I love everything that he stands for. I'm here behind Phillip Rivers' success story. Like the post-game presser, he's like, look, if anyone was inspired to do difficult things and like achieve their dreams because of what I did and stepped out and took the chance on, then awesome, fantastic. Like, we want to root for NFL stories. So from the NFL story side, I'm here for all of the Phillip Rivers. I can also see the pathway where it becomes like Phillip Rivers is sacked 5 times and he throws 2 or 3 interceptions because he's trying to force it into windows that his arm just can't do anymore. And that's what we saw at the end of the game last week when the Colts had a chance to get a game-winning drive together, and he tried to force the ball down the field and got picked. So that is very much within the range of outcomes. That's why you do want to be playing the San Francisco 49ers defense.
And by the way, we have this is interesting. So we have the national anthem going on right now, and the national anthem is being sung by Trevor Jackson, who is a musician, and he is also an actor who I did not realize was a series regular on the ABC show Grey's Anatomy. Bradley, are you a Grey's Anatomy watcher?
Real talk. I watched probably the first 4 seasons, and then I got this is like they're at like season 16 right now, whatever it is.
Oh no, they're way beyond that. We're in season 22.
Oh, even worse. That's how far behind I am. I think it was just a very cyclical like storyline that I got bored with. So like after 4 seasons,
it's almost a serial, right? Where it's just like 2
like
or 3,
a soap almost.
Yes, and it's like 2 or 3 sick surgeries and that they need to perform every episode, and some people live, some people die, and then we have this relationship stuff going on in the background,
and then occasionally there's a bomb in the hospital, occasionally,
yes, just like any hospital, right? So I'll say this, I am not into it at all, but they have Trevor Jackson singing the national anthem tonight wearing an Indianapolis Colts Anthony Richardson jersey. This is not foreboding for a good night from Phillip Rivers. I could be wrong, but if you want to get deep into the minutia here, this is not good.
Can Richardson even see out of his eye?
Yes, I would assume he can, right? And the thing is, I hope he's not a subject on next week's Grey's Anatomy after this game. Like, I want him to make it through healthy tonight. This could be really bad. Anyway. Jonathan Taylor, we have a 1-week sample size of what he was able to do with Phillip Rivers under center. Bradley, you have to play him. And I think people are playing him tonight, no question, against the Niners. But how much do they need to curtail expectations for Taylor with the pop gun throwing arm of Phillip Rivers, not being able to stretch defenses and threaten people down the field?
So I do want to provide a small correction for you there, Balky.
Go ahead.
Because we do have a larger sample of Jonathan Taylor with Phillip Rivers, and that is back in 2020. The last 4 games of the season when Jonathan Taylor, well, plus the playoffs, last 4 games of the season in 2020 when Jonathan Taylor like finally took over as the bell cow back. 20 for 150 and 2 touchdowns, 16 for 83 and a touchdown, 18 for 74 and 2 touchdowns, 30 for 253 and 2 touchdowns, 21 for 78 and a touchdown. That is the 5-game sample back in 2020 with Jonathan Taylor and Phillip Rivers full on. Now, last week, he just didn't, fall in the end zone, didn't get the fantasy points that we were hoping for. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. He may fall in the end zone. He may not fall in the end zone. You're playing Jonathan Taylor. You're not getting cute.
The wide receivers you can get cute with in Indianapolis. Do you have any thoughts on what wide receivers you should be deploying tonight with one Phillip Rivers throwing to him between Pittman, Pierce, Josh Downs, et al.?
Yeah, not Alec Pierce. Ty Warren's probably the best receiving option that you can throw in. Maybe some Josh Downs if he gets more snaps, but it's really hit or miss for these receiving options. Pittman could be a thing. Definitely not Pierce. Like he's the downfield threat. And if we're already knocking Rivers, like that game, the game logic of how this goes fits with fading Pierce into oblivion. So you can try your Pittmans, you can try your Ty Warrens, but I mean, look, how many pass attempts is Phillip Rivers going to have in this game?
It may not be many, to your point. We're about to get underway here. The last thing I'm going to ask you, Tyler Warren, obviously FFPC tight end premium leagues, you want to be playing him, or do you? What do you feel about Tyler Warren with Phillip Rivers this week, Bradley?
I mean, you probably, if you have Ty Warren, you're probably rolling them out there anyways. Like,
and that's the right call.
If you're at that spot, like we look at what happened last week for Ty Warren, 100% of snaps, he didn't leave the field, 6 targets, 3 receptions, but only 43 air yards. So if he gets in the end zone, he pays off. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Like he becomes this touchdown dependent tight end. That's what we're looking at. Unfortunately, he's probably going to get a 25% target share and it not really matter.
Which sucks. I mean, think about that. 25% target share and it doesn't even matter. But it's the world we're living in right now. We are underway now in tonight's game. The Niners have kicked off. It is a return for the Colts up to their own 28-yard line for 26 yards. And on the first down, Phillip Rivers throws it deep to Michael Pittman, who looked like he I wouldn't say he had a step on the defender, but he had safety help there, and it was broken up here. So it's 2nd and 10. Tanner Bordolini commits a false start. Now it is fast, 2nd and 15 for the Colts from their own 23-yard line. We'll give you updates on that going forward. Okay, getting back to stuff that happened in week 15. Week 16. God, what week are we in? This is the last game of week 16.
Once you get into like Christmas week, Balky, everything blurs together. I didn't even know what day it was today. Like, oh, it's Monday. Because for those who don't know, like my day job is as a principal. Like I'm a principal of a school. And so like now we're on Christmas break and I slept in today. And like, what obligations did I have? Oh, I had a phone call here, or, oh, we went to see a movie with the kids. Like everything blurs together. There's no real agenda for the day until we get to, is it Christmas? Is it New Year's? Like those types of things. So yeah.
Bradley, they say that one of the most rewarding jobs you can have in the United States of America is being a school principal. Do you subscribe to that?
Yeah, this is absolutely a rewarding job. Working with teachers and students is really, really what a privilege it is. And I'm in a small school, so there's a lot of history. Next year we'll be celebrating 75 years in existence. So it's a mostly rural school, and it's a really, really great place. So at the same time, everyone deserves a break. including the beloved principal. So everyone is enjoying this 2-week break.
Jonathan Taylor rushes up the middle for 7 yards. It is now 3rd and 8 from the Colts 30 as they look to make a move here. 14:34 to go in the first quarter. Rubio chiming in on YouTube right now, stating that Bradley, I was just fixing to say you must be in a small town / school. Is this in the Midwest? Is this Michigan? Where are we?
This is Michigan. This is like 2 miles from the Detroit Metro Airport. So it's it's a good spot. This is year 2 of being a principal there, and what a blessing, what a privilege it is.
It's awesome. It's the privilege is all mine talking with you on the show tonight, and the privilege is all fantasy owners who picked up or drafted and kept Michael Wilson on their team. Only gets 3 targets this past week, Bradley, but he catches 2 of them, turns it into 52 yards, and he gets a touchdown in the loss to the Falcons. I'm curious and we can get into Marvin Harrison a little bit on this as well. Dude dropped a touchdown he should have caught. I know it was not an easy catch, but number 4 overall pick in the draft, pedigree guy, he's got to make that play. Your thoughts on Wilson versus Harrison, not only for the remainder of the season, but as we enter the offseason, where I believe both these guys are under contract for Arizona come 2026. This is going to change the way we draft Cardinals wide receivers. And quite frankly, until we know who the quarterback is, this is going to represent a potential buying opportunity in drafts, Bradley.
Absolutely. I want to be buying in on Marvin Harrison Jr. The talent is absolutely there. We know he's been dealing with injuries ever since, week 11 when he missed. So he only played 51% of snaps in week 16 against Atlanta. Michael Wilson played all the snaps, but only earned 3 targets. Trey McBride should have had more, but it seemed like the game plan was to target the tight ends, McBride, and then Elijah Higgins as well. So if you're in FFPC drafts next year and you're looking for a late round tight end, smash some Elijah Higgins. He has a lot of athleticism. He's a player that has popped in times when McBride has been out, and he's oftentimes forgotten. Great athleticism, 96th percentile 40-yard dash, 87th percentile speed score, 83rd percentile burst score. This is a player that went in the 6th round and is only 25 years old. So, if you want a late round tight end for next year and a handcuff tight end, give me some Elijah Higgins. 7 for 91 on 8 targets in week 16.
Certainly killed Trey McBride owners this past week, but for people looking forward to next year, Higgins is a guy that we have to keep at the forefront. While we've been talking about the Cardinals tight ends, the Colts quarterback has been moving Indianapolis down the field. On 3rd and 8, Phillip Rivers hits Jonathan Taylor for a 19-yard catch. And then on 1st and 10, he hits Josh Downs for a 17-yard catch. It is now 1st and 10 for the Colts from the Niners 34. We have a Jonathan Taylor rush for 3 yards up the middle. Now 12:55 to go in the first. 2nd and 7 from the Niners 31 for the Colts. Sad news yesterday for fantasy football players, especially dynasty fantasy football players. And maybe it's not as bad as I thought, but Quinshon Judkins is expected to be out 4 to 5 months with a leg/ankle injury. We heard he did damage to both breaking his leg as well as a dislocated ankle. I believe the Browns are calling it a knee injury, so I guess we have to be wary of that. That's what Mary Kay Cabot had from the Cleveland Plain Dealer. Your thoughts on Quinshon Judkins on what we should be doing not only in Dynasty here, but as we get underway for redraft leagues. Sounds like Judkins is going to be a go for the start of the season. Does that mean we don't downgrade him too much in 2026 ranks next year, Bradley?
Oh, I want Judkins. I want him. This Browns offense was atrocious this year, and it can't get much worse. Like when you had Joe Flacco, Gabriel, and then you also have Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders has been fine in terms of pushing the ball down the field. There's a lot of decisions that are going to be made over the next 2 months or so, maybe in the next couple weeks with regard to the Cleveland Browns. There are reports out that Andrew Berry is expected to stay, but Kevin Stefanski is on his way out. And I think that is a mistake.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, because I don't think that's the right move, but keep going.
I think it's a mistake. You have a former 2-time coach of the year. Who are you going to replace Kevin Stefanski with? The reason why this is happening is it is owner driven. Yet again, this is why the Browns stay bad, is because the owner and the coach do not agree and align. The reason why Andrew Berry is keeping his job is because he's going to do the beckoning of the Haslams in Cleveland. That's why he's keeping his job, because he ended up drafting Shedeur Sanders when Haslam said, you need to draft Shedeur Sanders. That's the reality. And when Stefanski was not going to play Shedeur Sanders until it became so abundantly obvious that Dylan Gabriel had no business being on an NFL field. Like, good guy Gabe. Love Dylan Gabriel as a person. Think he's a great locker room presence. He should not be throwing the ball in an NFL stadium outside of practice reps. So you have Shedeur Sanders as the possible quarterback one. I'm not sure whether, I think it's 50-50 right now, which is a testament to what Shedeur has done over the last couple of weeks. He's had some blow up games. He's had some dud games, but you have to wonder if it had to do with some of the supporting cast, if it had to do with a lot of different things for Cleveland. But I think the Browns stay bad. I still want Quinshon Judkins though, because he has 4 top 12 finishes. And where else are you going to get a running back who had 21, 23, 25, 22, 23 carries? And that was with Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford healthy for most of the season.
The one thing I'll bring up here.
Well, I just got busted. They're bulky. We got a Alec Pierce touchdown catch. So what do I know?
All right, here we go.
What do I know?
Yeah, once again, for the umpteenth week in a row, my co-host is well ahead of me on the game that we're covering here tonight. So basically, here's what we happened, or here's what we had happen. Excuse me. So we had the Josh Downs catch, Jonathan Taylor up the middle for 2 yards, an incomplete pass deep to Tyler Warren. Michael Pittman gets a 14-yard catch. However, there was an illegal formation, so there was no play. It was a Colts penalty. Phillip Rivers then hits Josh Downs for 13 yards. He then hits Tyler Warren for 3 yards, and then a deep middle pass, as Bradley announced, to Alec Pierce over the middle. Phillip Rivers, defying the laws of physics and age, getting the Colts up 7-0 tonight after the extra point is good from Blake Groupie. You are looking at 10:31 to go in the first quarter at Lucas Oil. God bless Phillip Rivers. 7-0. Insane stuff. Insane stuff. I love to see it. All right. On the flip side of the age spectrum, let's go to Cleveland and talk about Harold Fannin, who I believe is old enough to be Phillip Rivers' great-great-grandson, which is insane to think about. But he catches 4 balls on 6 targets for 34 yards this past week in their loss to the Bills. He gets in the end zone. He also had a carry for 1 yard and a touchdown in this game as well. Bradley, the ceiling knows no bounds for Harold Fannin now, which is crazy to think about when you consider the offense, the team, and the quarterback for Cleveland. Fannin is defying all that. When you think about drafts next year, is this guy a top 5 tight end? Is he a top 3 tight end? How high would you take him? Would you consider him over McBride or Bowers, or is his ceiling tight end 3? Harold Fannin is a guy that we're going to have to make our decisions about here and start planting flags in January. Where do you stand on Harold Fannin for 2026?
Yeah, once Njoku leaves Cleveland, the hype is just going to get to be ridiculous for Harold Fannin. He's already in most dynasty leagues, the tight end 6. So for him to get top 5, top 4, I mean, yeah, you have McBride and Bowers, and then who else? Like, think about it. Like Ty Warren, Tucker Kraft. Give me Harold Fannin over those 2.
Okay, so here's the thing regarding Fannin. I think it's going to be very compelling to see next year where his touchdowns may not be congruent with where McBride's are. His touchdowns may not be reticent of where Bauer's touchdowns are, assuming Bowers gets a better quarterback, or maybe he doesn't have to. Maybe Geno Smith just has to stay healthy. But it's one of those things, dude. Tight end premium. He's the type of guy that could do like 4 or 5 touchdowns next year, Bradley, and still be at least in the conversation for tight end 1, given the target share, which has just been insane for him this year.
100%.
And but just real quick before you answer that, you mentioned this. That's with Njoku. Once Njoku moves on, my God.
Yeah, I think we can push Harold Fannin up to tight end 3. The targets are what's really encouraging. And like, you're gonna get touchdowns there, but they're scheming around the red zone and the end zone for him. They want Fannin to be scoring. They want him to be part of this offense. Harold Fannin pushed aside David Njoku. That was not on my bingo card for 2025.
And especially how early it happened too.
Like pushed aside. It wasn't just like, oh, he's progressing. This wasn't even like the Zach Ertz, Trey McBride situation. Like very quickly, right away, Harold Fannin pushed Njoku out of the way.
Let me ask you this, Bradley, and this comes from Bill Hollywood in the YouTube chat. I have a thought on this, and I'll reveal my thought as soon as you answer this. Bill Hollywood is saying, in regards to Fannin, he said he'd take Dalton Kincaid in 2026 drafts over Harold Fannin. Like I said, I'll reveal what I think about this in a second. Your thoughts on this?
Hopium is a heck of a drug.
He's not. Bill is a Detroit Lions fan. He has no dog in this fight.
I'm waiting for the Laporta, because Laporta is actually adjacent in the dynasty rankings to Harold Fannin. But like, give me the argument for instance, Colston Loveland over Harold Fannin. Like Dalton Kincaid isn't even in the same breath. So yeah, I Harold Fannin at 20. I was waiting for you to say, well, Harold Fannin could be Philip Rivers' great grandchild. I thought you were going to say Harold Fannin just started to be able to legally drink alcohol in the United States of America. That's where I thought you were going to. He is 21 years old, Balky. 21.
He just turned 21 in July. So he's been able to drink this whole season, and he should be with champagne. How good he has been all season long. Here's my thing, and Bill, listen, Bill's he's a better fantasy player than I am. There's no question on that. But I will say this: if you have the Bills' offense this year, where they are starving for pass catchers on the perimeter, over the middle, Khalil Shakir's been okay, but he's been probably the best. Keon Coleman, a healthy scratch 3 times this year. You had Gabe Davis, a healthy scratch in week 16. Josh Palmer responds with 1 catch for 2 yards. They're paying him a boatload. If Kincaid can't get it done this year, I just don't see it next year in comparison to Harold Fannin. Give me Fannin, barring injury. He is 100% my play. You could be right about Kincaid. I just don't see it.
To think that Harold Fannin fell to the 3rd round when he set so many records. Best tight end in college last year. Best tight end in college. One of the best tight end performances in all of college history.
Yeah.
Like, this was a guy at Bowling Green. Like, that's why he was being downgraded. It was Bowling Green State University. Look, when he crushes like that, there were some conversations of, Harold Fannin, he's going to need to learn how to block to get snaps. The Browns didn't care. The Browns didn't have another receiving option. So look, they're employing Fannin as a centerpiece of this offense, and I think that's going to replicate in 2026.
Yeah, and I don't see them getting a wide receiver or anybody to step in and take that away from them. No, I
do think that the Browns are going to draft a wide receiver with that Jacksonville pick that they get.
That could be. But do you think that receiver comes in and becomes the de facto 1A or even 1 for targets in that offense, I think Fannin is so. And I guess here's what it comes down to, and maybe I'm overstepping, but Bradley, it maybe comes down to who the quarterback is next year.
Sure.
Whether it's Watson or Sanders or whoever, I think that plays a huge role. All right, let's move on. I want to tell everybody what's going on in the game here tonight. We had, after the kickoff, Christian McCaffrey, a 4-yard gain. George Kittle catches a 26-yard catch over the middle, followed by a Christian McCaffrey 6-yard catch. Then we have a Christian McCaffrey 9-yard run, a Christian McCaffrey 2-yard run. And then, of course, as everybody had it, it was a touchdown from Brock Purdy to one Demarcus Robinson, screwing over everybody who had Kittle, McCaffrey, Jennings. And by the way, helping anybody who is going against Kittle and McCaffrey tonight. So that was great. It is a touchdown. It is a tie game. 7:14 to go in the first quarter. 7-7 after the touchdown from Purdy to Demarcus Robinson. Good stuff there as we roll on here. They're taking a break on ESPN. We are not taking a break here because we have to talk about Kyle Pitts, Bradley. 7 catches for 57 yards on 9 targets, 1 touchdown in the win over the Cardinals. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to say anything. I want to hear what you think about this. I don't know what to think about Kyle Pitts going forward. He is probably going to be paid by another team other than Atlanta, and he's probably not going to be a Falcon next year, which obviously is very exciting for Drake London dynasty owners. But it's also a little concerning for Pitts owners because we have seen players go to new situations in that first year, and they're not what we expected. They don't continue over the success they had the previous year. And quite frankly, you have Kyle Pitts in his entire career in Atlanta not being very successful. He had a fantastic year 1, and then this past year's been really good, but he's had a lot of garbage sandwiched in between. What do you make of Kyle Pitts going forward in the NFL, considering that there is a much higher chance than a non-zero chance he is not back in Atlanta next year, and he has to contend with a new OC, a new head coach, a new quarterback, a new offense, a new everything?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in the Kyle Pitts situation.
Maybe the best way to phrase this, Bradley, is when we have best ball drafts starting up in the next couple of weeks, do you take him in the top 3? Do you take him in the top 5? Do you take him in the top 10? Where does he land in?
I think we could make the argument for a top 10 Pitts. The issue I have is sustainability, because we've seen just massive games from Kyle Pitts here and there. But his ramp up and explosion came with Drake London out. And then finally Drake London comes back week 16, but he's not himself. He plays a season low 69% of snaps. He does get 8 targets, but 3 for 27. Still clearly not himself.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Pitts crushes yet again. So I think the other nuanced part is Darnell Mooney was not involved at all in this game. Again, 70% snaps, like for a player who previously was between 75 and 90% of snaps. So Darnell Mooney, I think him being non-existent negatively or positively impacted Kyle Pitts. You have Drake London, not at 100%. That's positively impacting Kyle Pitts. If these guys are back and full health, I think you're going to see back to Kyle Pitts going 4 for 40 on 6 targets, and that's fine. Does he get the touchdown? Does he not get the touchdown? Once again, that's why I'm comfortable with like top 10, but the hopium again is just so high for Pitts. Like my priors are confirmed. He's had his breakout moments. No, it's because Drake London is not there. Like that's Occam's razor. That's what's holding Kyle Pitts back, is this alpha wide receiver. So is some team going to overpay for Kyle Pitts? Most likely. He's still a valuable asset. So could the Falcons franchise tag him?
They could, and they might. Let me ask you this to wrap up the Pitts discussion. Does he fall enough? Like, okay, we have seen people say, I'm not drafting tight ends early. That's not my bag. It never works out for me. I'm going to wait till 10 of them are off the board or 11 of them are off the board, and then I'll go bang, bang, tight end or whatever. Do you think Pitts falls enough? I guess we know he won't if he's with Atlanta next year. We know he won't fall to tight end 12 or 13. Do you think he has a shot at falling to tight end 12 or 13 if he signs with a new team? Or should we just disavow ourselves with that notion right now that Pitts is right out? You have to pay up for him. And if you want to pay up for a tight end, Pitts won't be one of them next year.
He's going to be in the top 10 conversation. And I'm fine taking my shots there, regardless of what team he's on. At the same time, we have to understand the context of why these breakouts are happening, or we are going to let our biases get in the way of, wow, Kyle Pitts helped me out with this massive 3-touchdown game and he exploded. And why did that happen? Well, he is a talented tight end, no doubt, but he's like Evan Ingram.
Right.
Yeah, where he's never going to be the number one guy in the offense. And
I will give him a little bit more credit than Evan Ingram, but okay. But for the role he plays, I get it. Bradley, I have to get back to this game because we had a turnover. Eddie Pinheiro kicked off. Amir Abdullah fumbled, and it was recovered by everybody's favorite George Kittle replacement, Jake Tonjes. And the Niners have taken over here. Purdy hits George Kittle for 12 yards. McCaffrey goes for 5 yards and then 6 yards. It is now 1st and goal from the Indianapolis 3. And as everybody was hoping for, myself included, it is a Brian Robinson carry on 1st and goal from the 3. He gets 1 yard. Now 2nd and goal from the 2. And I believe it is Brian Robinson. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. You're ahead of me, so I won't say anything here.
No, I'm not. I'm watching along with you. I'm just
okay.
Scoffing with you and the rest of the audience that Brian Robinson is getting a rush at the 3-yard line.
I listen. You got to sustain. It's the guys at the front line that always take the biggest hits, right? And they're allowing Brian Robinson to take those big hits here rather than Christian McCaffrey, who they have very high hopes for going forward in the postseason. There is a timeout now on the field on 2nd down. So it will be, when we resume, it will be 2nd and goal from the Indianapolis 2 with 4:37 to go in the first quarter. We'll see if it's Brian Robinson or Christian McCaffrey out there. Speaking of players we did not think were going to matter in 2025, Quentin Johnston sees 5 targets, Bradley. He catches 4 of them for 104 yards and a touchdown in the win over the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, it was the Dallas pass defense, but we have seen a resurgence from Quinton Johnston so far this season. He has gone very hot, then very cold. Now he's starting to warm up again. Where do you stand on Quinton Johnston as an NFL fantasy football difference maker in dynasty leagues, or quite frankly, redraft leagues next year?
Yeah, going into 2025, Quinton Johnston was just undervalued. Yeah, he was extremely undervalued because you looked at 2023, and I was totally out after 2023. He was just so terrible, arguably one of the worst wide receivers in the NFL during his rookie season. And then 2024, he had some decent games, and his ADP was like wide receiver 60 something. And in the best ball streets, and I thought to myself, look, I get that we're all high on McConkey and Trey Harris could be a thing, but what if Quinton Johnston just holds on to the starting role? What if he's just the other starting wide receiver down there, and he'll have a couple blow up games? So I was actually clicking a lot of Quinton Johnston because I felt like he was massively mispriced, not because I thought he was very good. But then you look at, to start the season, 22, 14, 11, 19 fantasy points and half point scoring. And then he puts up 18 against Dallas and, wide receiver 7 going into Monday Night Football. Yeah. And overall, like from a macrocosmic perspective, the macros are very good for the Chargers. They are, they've won 7 of the last 8 and are 11-4 on the season. Yeah. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I think that the Chargers offense in general next year is going to be very compelling to how we draft these players. Not only Johnston, I think Rondé Gadsden. I don't think Keenan Allen will be back, but Amari and Hampton, as well as his performance this year, factors into that as well. Speaking of running backs, it is a touchdown, much to my chagrin, a 2-yard pass from Brock Purdy to Christian McCaffrey. The Eddie Pinheiro extra point is good. 4:33 to go in the first quarter. The Niners now holding a 14-7 lead over the Colts. Let's step out and take our final break of the evening. They have taken a break on ESPN. Trust me, we will be back much faster than they will be. We're going to talk about more takeaways, including but not limited to the Pittsburgh Steelers running back situation, what we saw from Tony Pollard and Baker Mayfield this past week as well. He's Bradley Stalder from Player Profiler, the Stack Hunters podcast. Check him out anywhere you get podcasts. I'm Eric Balkman. This is FFPC Insider Access Show live on Fantasy Football Night in America right here on the Better Sports Network.
What's up, guys? Andrew Cooper here, Fantasy Alarm, and it's that time of year at the FFPC Playoff Challenge. This is one of my very favorite contests. Forget about all your redraft leagues. Forget about DFS. This is one last chance for glory, and it comes during the NFL playoffs. Yes, you can go in with no salaries, no drafts, no convoluted stuff, and create your lineup to carry you through the playoffs. The only rule, you cannot pick two players from the same team, which I kind of like. I quietly don't want to get crushed by some stack of Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua. You have to pick one or the other. That's it. You pick 12 players. Try and set yourself up for glory here. And there's a lot on the line. 2 different contests, $35 contest or the $200 contest with a $500,000 on the line in this one. It is one of the premier events in this fantasy football space. If you win this one, you go down in fantasy football history with the other gold-plated names at the FFPC. So get your contest locked in now before they fill, because I tell you what, they will. If you want to get into the FFPC Playoff Challenge, go to myffpc.com, sign up now, and you can use promo code ALARM, ALARM. They'll give you $25 when you deposit $35 or more.
All right, we're back, and Eric is taking a break, but we just...
Sorry, I'm back.
You're good, Eric.
Yeah, no, I had my kids just got home, and I was late coming back, but I'm going to say this right now. We are enjoying 14-7 Monday Night Football, Niners over the Colts. I did not think I'd be saying this tonight, Bradley, but the Steelers running back situation this year. Jaylen Warren, 14 carries, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns. We know what Kenneth Gainwell has done in the passing game the last several weeks. Like I said, I can't believe I'm saying this. I have to give kudos to Arthur Smith. I'm really impressed with what he has been able to get out of both these running backs. And I'll take this a step further. I don't think Kenneth Gainwell is a Steeler next year. I think he signs. I've heard people talking about being the pass catcher in Jaden Daniels' Commanders offense next year, but I don't think he's back in Pittsburgh. And dare I say that Caleb Johnson will be underdrafted in 2026 drafts because everybody has kind of given up on him. It's a second year in the league and for him in the league. And maybe this is the learning experience he needed, Bradley. I'm very bullish, not only on Jaylen Warren, but for Caleb Johnson in 2026 as well. Disagree if you want. I would encourage that, but that's the way I see it as of right now here in late December 2025.
Yeah, Arthur Smith is not a good head coach, but he's a great offensive coordinator. And we have to think back to how he made Cordarrelle Patterson a thing, right? Back when Cordarrelle Patterson was 30-something years old, had literal dust on his helmet, and became a top 12 running back for fantasy. Those wild times. And now you have a very smart quarterback who's able to read defenses at an elite level and check in or out of runs or passes, and in a way that Arthur Smith has never experienced before. So you've got an elite mind at Aaron Rodgers behind center, making these calls. And then you have very good running backs. Jaylen Warren, the efficiency metrics have always been there for Warren when he's been healthy. Kenneth Gainwell, I think, was undervalued, and it's sad that he was tossed aside by Philly, and they tried to replace him with Will Shipley, which has not turned out some sort of way. Gainwell was very lucky in the Week 16 game. I don't know if you saw the catch, Balky. That was unbelievable.
Okay, here's the thing. I am a Packers fan. The very first, and my mom texted me because she was watching this, and the very first thing she said, "Do you remember that game on Monday Night Football when Antonio Freeman beat, I think it was Chris Dishman for the Vikings, and it was the he did what play on from the Al Michaels call when Al Michaels used to be good at calling football games on Monday Night Football, and we all thought I thought it was incomplete. I thought it was incomplete, and it ended up being a touchdown for Freeman. Exact same thing I thought about Gainwell on this play. What an incredible performance! The mental fortitude to say, "Hey, I know I caught this," to get up and run. Crazy stuff from Gainwell there. This guy is running hot right now. It's perfect evidence of it right there.
Yeah, lean into that for the rest of the year. I'm very interested in seeing where Kenneth Gainwell will land in terms of ADP, because I think on other teams he may not be as efficient or as good.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned like Washington. Yes, they would be very interested in getting like the Austin Eckler replacement because of Eckler's injury history and the wrong side of the age apex and all that. So that is an interesting landing spot for Gainwell. I'm just not confident that another team will be able to use him to the level of efficiency that the Steelers are clearly using. And when you talk about Caleb Johnson, I mean, looking at where he is in the dynasty streets, like he's like maybe a throw-in opportunity. You know, that's where we can like take a shot on a year 2, day 2 player on an offense that if he gets majority of run, like Caleb Johnson could still be very interesting. He's on most sites outside the top 36 of running back. So there is value to be had in trying to get a 22-year-old Caleb Johnson. So we'll see what happens. This is a backfield that, you know, whoever the running backs are probably going to be fantasy relevant in Arthur Smith offense. And we've seen multiple running backs be fantasy relevant, Cordell Patterson and Tyler Algier.
Yeah, that's
Tyler Algier and John Robinson. So that certainly exists.
I think that I would, and I believe I'm echoing what Bradley's saying. Do not cut Caleb Johnson in your dynasty leagues. Make sure you are keeping him around. If you want to trade him or whatever, maybe you can find a buyer. But I think that by and large, he's going to be better off on your roster, and then see what he does in 2026, because I think it's going to be good. Okay, moving forward to the game tonight, get you caught up on everything. It is a Josh Downs 8-yard catch followed by a Jonathan Taylor 5-yard run. Incomplete pass to Josh Downs before Rivers hits Alec Ogletree for 11 yards, and then an incomplete pass to Ogletree. Alec Pierce hits Rivers hits a 17-yard catch to Alec Pierce, followed by a Josh Downs run for 3 yards, and then Josh Downs catches a pass from Phillip Rivers for 12 yards. It is 1st and goal now for the Colts, obviously in the red zone. 58 seconds to go in the first quarter as the Colts try to tie this one up. Bradley, maybe we're looking at an over tonight. Like, it's already 14-7, 20 seconds to go in the first quarter. Maybe we see a shootout tonight between Purdy and Rivers. Exactly what we thought about.
Absolutely.
This season.
Everyone ignore the first hour of this podcast. That's what they need to do.
I want to bring up another quarterback, Baker Mayfield. 18 of 26 this past weekend, 145 yards, a touchdown and a pick. The Buccaneers lose the game to the Panthers. They also lose control of the NFC South to Carolina. He also got 49 rushing yards on 4 carries. What do you think's going on with Mayfield? He had Godwin. He had Evans. He had McMillan. He had Igbuka. He had Irvin. His full complements of weapons, and it just seems like he has not been able to shake this poor play over the last, over the last 2 months. He has not been great, Bradley. What do you think is wrong with Baker Mayfield right now?
Oh, he's hurt. Baker Mayfield is injured. He is very, very injured. There was someone who went on Twitter, and I'm going to let them remain nameless, but if you go to my replies, you can find out who it is. They said, are we finally going to just admit that Browns fans are trying to it was essentially like Baker Mayfield is mid, and this is finally proving it.
And the Browns were right to not.
The Browns were right to, yeah. And that's really just telling on yourself. You're clearly missing the what's staring at you in the face. It's Occam's razor. I mentioned that earlier. For those not familiar with what Occam's razor is, it's the simplest answer is the most likely, and that is that Baker Mayfield is hurt. We look at Week 12 against the LA Rams. He plays 56% of snaps. From that point on, quarterback 18, 19, 14, and 18. Mm-hmm. He's not attempted more than 34 passes in a game. The pass attempts are not there. The arm strength is not there. He's thrown for under 200 yards in 5 of the last 6 games. He cannot get the ball down the field, and it is because he's hurt. Like, that's it. The Bucs are allowing him to play because they don't have any confidence in, oh, wait, who's their second quarterback? Teddy Bridgewater. Yeah. 2 hands, 2 glove Teddy, right? And who's their third quarterback? You can't even name him. I'll give you $20 if you can name the third quarterback on the Bucs without looking it up.
I didn't look it up. I don't know this. This is probably wrong. But I just remember when we were talking about Tom Brady was with the Bucs. Kyle Trask was always in the conversation. Is that who it is?
No, it's not.
Who is it?
Connor Bazelak.
I've never heard of this guy. Where is he a rookie? What does he do, Bradley? I've never heard of him.
Look, you're asking me very good questions. Connor Bazelak.
Oh, Connor Bazelak. So this is he on the active roster or is he on the
he's the emergency quarterback.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm looking him up right now. Connor Bazelak is God.
That's my point. Is they're not going to let Teddy Bridgewater throw the ball. Like, hurt Baker Mayfield is better than 2 glove Teddy, and you don't even know who Bazelak is. So that's my point.
I will tell you this. He was the SEC co-freshman of the year in 2020. So that was a while ago. He was third team. He went from SEC co-freshman of the year in 2020 to third team All-MAC in 2024. He was not drafted in 2025, and he signed in May this past year with the Buccaneers as an undrafted free agent. He was waived, re-signed to the practice squad. He was promoted to the active roster ahead of the Week 13 game against the Cardinals. I would imagine that he is back down to the practice squad. Now,
yes,
you want to hear some good Connor, because why else would you tune into the show for unless you're wanting some Connor Bazelak trivia? Len Bazelak, who is his father, holds the Dartmouth College school record for career 3-point percentage for basketball, which is great. Connor Bazelak also has 2 older sisters, Maddie and Libby. Maddie played volleyball at Duquesne and basketball at Ohio University. I'm going to repeat that. Maddie Bazelak played volleyball at Duquesne and basketball at Ohio University. So Maddie could play 2 sports, just apparently not at the same school, which is crazy to think about. And
that's crazy.
It is. Libby played college basketball at Duquesne, where she ranked 24th all-time in program history, hitting the 1,000-point plateau, 1,111 points. Connor Bazelak, seriously, from a long line of great athletes, and that is why Baker Mayfield is still playing right now, because they don't trust Connor Bazelak, this uber athlete from this family of uber athletes, to play well going forward. Connor Bazelak.
That's what everyone came to the show for.
Yeah, exactly. Don't you regret bringing Connor Bazelak up now, Bradley? I'm sure you do.
I do not regret it at all.
This is okay,
absolute gold. I'm glad you ran with it there, Balky.
All right. Well, with that, we have more stuff to get to, but we're constrained to 2 hours. So we will wrap things up right now. Bradley, you have been a champ. You have offered a lot of great insight tonight. Not only are we getting great stuff from you over at Player Profiler, where you are pushing papers and orchestrating everything going on there at the news desk. Tell us what we can expect for you, not only for the remainder of this season, but the off season and going into 2026 as well.
Well, before we even get into that, Balky, I have to say, I told everyone that Alec Pierce would not get a touchdown because he would get 2.
He just caught his second one. It is a 16-yard catch from Phillip Rivers
This is
to Alec Pierce.
This is outstanding. This is fantasy gold. This is content. Oh, this is Balky. This is what a treat.
Yes,
what a treat.
It's been fantastic. It has been fantastic tonight.
Well, check out.
Go ahead.
Stack Hunters, Player Profiler, Man versus Machine every Wednesday. Check that out as well with Wyatt. He's great. Dan Williamson, also great. And check out all the playerprofiler.com/news things coming out with all free agency and rookies and trades and everything leading up to the draft and more on playerprofiler.com/news. And
for everything that you may miss, follow and connect with Bradley on X at FF Stalder, the Riz God himself. That is where he sets up his home on X at FF Stalder. That is the upside down for Bradley Stalder. I really need to pound out a few more episodes of Stranger Things because I got it on my mind right now. Bradley, be good. I want to have you on again sometime soon. Thank you so much for hopping aboard a special Monday show. Good luck in all of your leagues and keep up all the great work at Player Profiler. We will talk with you again very soon, my friend. Thank you, Balky. Till next time. That is going to do it for the show. Check out the FFPC Playoff Challenge, myffpc.com. No draft, no salary cap, no convoluted rules. Just pick 12 players, win $500,000 or $100,000 grand prize with just $200 or $35 entry fees. That's at myffpc.com. Thank you to Bradley Stalder. Thank you to Sean Engel. We will be back another special Monday show next week, 7 p.m. Eastern, Rams and Falcons. And guess who we're watching it with? One Andrew Cooper from Fantasy. He'll join me for 2 full hours. For Bradley Stalder, for Sean Engel, I'm Eric Balkman. This has been FFPC Insider Access on the Better Sports Network. Enjoy the rest of the game, everybody. Talk with you next Monday. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy Hanukkah.